Hello everyone, welcome to Pensive Politics with Mr. Watson. I am your host, Christian Watson, and with me today I have a guest who absolutely needs no introduction. Joining me here by phone is Joshua Wong. Joshua Wong here is an activist from Hong Kong and a former politician, I believe. He is the Secretary General of the Demosito Party. He made headlines back in 2014 being involved in the Umbrella Revolution, which was a set of protests in Hong Kong to dissuade Beijing from putting their propagandistic nonsense in the Hong Kong education system. He also was named in that year. Time Magazine. He was nominated for Time Magazine's Person of the Year. Fortune Magazine in 2015 called him one of the greatest leaders in the world, and he also was nominated not too long ago in 2018, I believe, for the 2017 for the Nobel Peace Prize. So without further ado, I give you Joshua. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation, and it's my pleasure to share some of my thoughts and ideas on my journey on activism in Hong Kong.
Absolutely. So my first question, which is very much in the spirit of that, is what exactly animates your drive for freedom? I mean, you have stood up against the Beijing Politburo more than once. You have marched tirelessly with other students just to ensure that your political and educational autonomy can be preserved. You have been arrested several times by the sort of corrupt Hong Kong police system. What keeps you going? Because most folks in your shoes would have backed down by now. What keeps you going?
Hong Kong is the place with only 7 million population, and more than 8,000 were arrested since last summer. The youngest one at the age of 11 is still a primary school kid. The oldest one at the age of 84, which is the elderly. And in Hong Kong, with the crackdown from Beijing, I think the reason for us to fight for freedom is because we hope to be the master of our own house and determine our destiny.
Indeed. So, what is Hong Kong's destiny in your opinion?
We hope Hong Kong can be the place with freedom and democracy, and instead of the freedom being tightening by Beijing, we hope to allow people to be the master of their own house, and we can enjoy autonomy to let everyone in this city decide their way of living. Indeed.
Well, so speaking about that, last year in 2019, and I remember this quite vividly because I could have been in Hong Kong during this time because I had an academic opportunity to go over there, but I didn't choose to. But last year in 2019, you got Secretary Lam in the council were considering an extradition bill, which many of your fellow friends, which are seeds from your movement back in 2014, were against. And now we see coronavirus coming around and China taking several opportunistic measures to coax the South China Sea into its control and to destroy the protest, so to speak. So how has the democracy movement from 2019 matured and progressed, and how is it faring under the specter of Chinese opportunism during this very perilous coronavirus time?
Fight for democracy is never any kind of easy things, and more than 2 million people took to the street already, but we just experienced serious crackdown and the suppression. But when we are standing in the forefront to confront the largest authoritarian regime in the world, I think there's no reason for us to step backward. And how we continue street activism and also international advocacy hope to let the world encourage people, civil society, and government around the world to stand with Hong Kong and to uphold and safeguard liberal value that we believe in.
Absolutely. So, how are the Hong Kong activists handling the coronavirus situation right now?
With the coronavirus outbreak, we just imply the government that is lack of transparency and check and balance. I mean, Chinese government will just result in the pandemic virus and just turn out to be the global health crisis in the past 2 months. And the government without accountability and not responsible to deal with the crisis is what we experience in Hong Kong. Especially in Hong Kong, when we urge the government to shut down and close the border, not allow mainland travelers travel to Hong Kong, and Beijing and Hong Kong government just ignore it and still allow people travel to Hong Kong. And I think how national pride override public health is what we experience in Hong Kong.
Indeed. So, do you intend to continue the protest, or does the movement intend to continue the protest after?
We will continue the protest after the decline of the coronavirus, and I believe this summer will be our movement continue again. Yeah.
Very good, very good, very good. I'm happy to see that you guys haven't really let this virus or anything like it slow you down, because what you guys have in Hong Kong is something incredibly beautiful that I think the world can emulate if we're talking about preserving freedom. So I wanted to move on to the fact that you are a resilient young lad, in my opinion. You have taken a lot of barbs from the People's Republic of China state-run media that have tried to assassinate your character over the years. I mean, whenever you've done congressional hearings, like when you went to the congressional hearing not too long ago to talk about the Hong Kong Democracy Act, which you helped pass last year, I believe there was a lot of calls and a lot of suspicion from folks in the East calling you a CIA asset and now all that other kind of nonsense. So how have you channeled those sort of derogatory, defamatory lies into success for the Hong Kong freedom movement?
Yeah, I think that's the fake news and the misleading propaganda provided by Beijing, and to accuse that I'm one of the CIA agent or trained by U.S. Marine. And as Hong Kongers, I born and live and love Hong Kong very much. And of course, we welcome everyone, no matter with different cultural background or come from different countries, to support Hong Kong. But this kind of blame or criticism is not real at all, and the fake news in authoritarian regime has always become the channel for them to silence the voice of dissidents.
Yeah, and so have you, beyond just attacks and insults and sneers, have you actually faced any sort of like people in power coming to you directly and saying these things to you, or is it mostly just anonymous people online or people who are loyalists to the Beijing regime?
Even pro-Beijing politician
in
Hong Kong didn't believe that I was trained by U.S. Marine.
Oh my!
And it's just, so it's just fake news by those pro-Beijing newspaper. But even politician or government official didn't trust on it.
Right. Oh my! That's a shame. That's a shame. And so in the newspapers in Hong Kong, I assume attack you as well sometimes.
That's their way to attack, but I think in such battle, with the landslide victory in the last November election,
right.
85% of the seat won by pro-democratic camp in the district council. With such landslide victory, we just proved the silent majority stand on our side.
Right, right. I'm curious. When Lam resigned the extradition bill last year, what was the feeling amongst the movement? Were you guys happy about that? And how exactly would you guys feel like you had a victory in that moment when she resigned that bill?
Successfully forced the government to withdraw the bill is one of the remarkable achievements, but I think that's just a short-term goal. And how to stop the police brutality, and in the long run, we need to ask for free election. I think that's our battle and the fight.
Absolutely, absolutely, I agree. And so, in that fight and in that battle, which political or religious figures have inspired you or have just made you want to keep going exactly, if you have any at all?
Hong Kongers are the one that inspire me and impress me a lot and motivate me to continue to fight in the future. Sometimes when we feel downhearted or depressed, but with the solidarity and how Hong Kong people still keep on the fight, especially in the protest movement since last summer, I think it really inspires us to continue the fight.
Right, absolutely. And so, just tell me, who in Hong Kong right now, because I remember a remark you made to the media. You said that what you're doing is great, but there are folks in Hong Kong that risk a lot and that you're thankful for them. How exactly, when you work with these people, how exactly do you how exactly do they operate, and like what makes you admire them when they're still all fighting freedom like you're doing? What makes you really like them?
In Hong Kong, with activists, because of fight for freedom, result in 6 years or even 7 years in prison, compared to just being jailed for 100
Absolutely.
days.
My goodness.
The price I pay is a small piece of cake.
My goodness. And so that actually leads right into my next question, actually. So when you were detained, when you were locked up by the sort of the foot soldiers of the Xi regime, how did you feel? I believe when you were first detained, you were 17, correct? How exactly did you feel? How has that experience molded you or shaped you? Because most people at such a young age being locked up would have had traumatic scars that would have stopped them from doing whatever they're doing right now. How has it affected you?
Instead of wait until graduate from university or how we will continue the fight after we enter the government or work as a professionals. I think how to make change when we are still in school as a student activist is extremely important, because the youngster can make change and be the change we want to see. I think that's how we encourage each other in such battle.
Right. And so when you were locked up, though, when you were in jail, how did you handle that? How did you feel?
With lots of Hong Kongers sent letter to me, show their support, which really impressed, and also us to realize that Hong Kongers will never surrender.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you foresee a world where Hong Kong is completely free from the Beijing Dragon? Do you foresee a world where Hong Kong will be itself? Or do you think that, or are you just trying to go for degrees of political freedom as opposed to total political freedom? So the question is, do you want, just as the movement has said in the past, free and fair elections? Or do you want complete and utter freedom as a whole?
Democracy and autonomy are the two critical elements, and also the goal for Hong Kong. And we hope one day Hong Kong can be the place with freedom and democracy. And that's our wish, and also how we cherish on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, that's actually good. That's good, because, like, my next question would be, in your view, what is the future of the Hong Kong freedom movement exactly? Where does it go from the summer of 2019, getting the government to yank back that atrocious, vile, and demonic extradition bill, to now the sort of spring of 2020, when the future for a lot of freedom movements, including Hong Kong's, seems somewhat uncertain in the face of the coronavirus? What's next for you guys?
We hope to take the majority in the upcoming September election. We hope to take the majority in the Legislative Council. The Legislative Council of Hong Kong should be the place representing the voice of people, instead of just gathering those Beijing loyalists with the puppet of China. And how we can continue the fight on the street, and also take the landslide victory again in the upcoming election. That's our goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, do you see ways, because for a very long time, you guys didn't have very much political power, and for a time, or even when you did get political power, you're still, some people in the Beijing propaganda machine still try to deride you and still try to attack you, and they've convinced some people in the public to do so. Do you see any way for those in Hong Kong who want freedom to get freedom and to fight for it in a way that doesn't require them to become elected? Do you see any sort of social ways people could do it?
No matter lawyers, social worker, those are really responsible and commit a lot. And I think how we continue the fight is really important. Not only politician or lawmaker, even activists, scholar, that they can contribute a lot and make difference. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And so, how? Just going back to your first hurrah into the Hong Kong activist scene in 2014, when you were fighting with your friends to ensure that your education, your academic freedom was preserved. Do you think there's academic freedom in Hong Kong right now? Is it better than it was when you first fought it back in 2014, or has it gotten worse?
Academic freedom is strongly eroded by Beijing with political censorship, and only have welcomed those pro-government attitude or etc. But I think also we are responsible to continue the fight. So even with such censorship in different sector, we need to continue and never give up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, are you in university right now? Or are you outside of education?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, and so how is it there? Is it okay? Is it better there? Is it good there?
Now, because of the outbreak of virus, just turn to be continued class by video conference. Yeah.
Oh my, that's a shame. That's a shame. So in America particularly, and all throughout the world in general, there have been a lot of young folks who have faced hate and derision and all kind of other things just for speaking truth to power in a political way. What do you think of the idea that young people should be seen and not heard? And have you faced that perception yourself? Have you faced that perception that since you're a young person, your opinion does not matter as much as it would if you were not a young person?
lots of people always assume that young person are not capable, but I think in the protest movement in Hong Kong, we proved that youngster can make this difference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, for a young person who might be looking at what you're doing, and they're in a war-torn country, or they're in an authoritarian country, and they're thinking, well, Joshua Wong and his friends, they really, really, really inspired me. How would you advise they get involved to change the political system of their country, like you changed the political system of your country? What should they do, in your opinion? What would be your suggestion?
Be the change you want to see is always how I encourage people around the world, especially for youngsters, if they have to make change. Even the cultural context or historical background or political system are totally different with Hong Kong, but how to make change in the society, no matter from rally, demonstration, protest, online campaign, at least let our voice being heard in the society and be listened by the government.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what about those who might be squeamish and who might be scared they're going to get arrested or their families are going to be attacked? How would you advise them? Because what you've done is incredibly brave, it's incredibly extraordinary, but I'm afraid a lot of people don't have the same sort of tenacity or will to be willing to go to jail for what they believe in. So what do you think those kind of people should do?
The threat can't defeat us, make us even stronger determination. And I think how we continue to strengthen youth activism could let those upper-class elites realize that they need to listen to our voice.
Absolutely. You've been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. That's just surreal. When you were first told that you were nominated, what was your reaction, my friend?
I'm not the one capable to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Right.
I just hope to, through being nominated, let more and more people listen to the story of how Hong Kong youngsters are passionate and determined in this fight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so what people who want to help you, people who like freedom, people who like political autonomy, people who understand all of that, what can they do to assist in the Hong Kongers campaign in the future? What can they do to continue that struggle, that moral and spiritual struggle on in the future? What do you think they can do?
Follow our Twitter and join the online petition and to track on the news of Hong Kong and to encourage more of your friends to care about Hong Kong. Here is a city that confronts the largest authoritarian regime, and we hope to safeguard freedom and democracy that we all believe in.
Absolutely. And so, in your view, Joshua, and in a few moments I'll let you go. I'm so grateful for your time. But in your view, what does true democracy in Hong Kong look like?
Hong Kong should be recognized as an international city instead of just a ordinary or normal city under the rule of Beijing and being merged into Guangzhou, Shenzhen, or part of mainland China. And here is a place that allow people to freely choose their way of living, determine their own future, and energetic and passionate to let people to enjoy the attractive point of this city.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so you want Beijing to be politically neutral, politically itself,
yes.
sovereign. No, you want Hong Kong to be politically neutral. Okay.
Yeah.
And so would you be concerned that, because like the argument that many of the people who favor a pro-Beijing Hong Kong would say is that Beijing or some political entity like that protects it. Would you be concerned about Hong Kong being attacked at all, if that were the case? Or do you think that Hong Kong can defend itself by itself?
Hong Kong is being cracked down and attacked by Beijing and Hong Kong riot police, and that's the reason we can't keep silence.
Indeed, absolutely. Well, Joshua, I am so grateful for your time. You are a remarkable individual who has done remarkable things, and I think that you should stand as a beacon of what people who want to fight for freedom can do in this country. I absolutely, and in the world too. So, do you have any last words before I let you go, my friend?
That's my sharing. Thank you.
Indeed. All right. Thank you so much, Joshua, and thank you so much, everyone. Goodbye.